Welcome to PCM Podcast, a series of informative podcasts with experts in their fields exploring a wide range of topics in payments. The theme for today's session is digital wallets, a convenient tool for value creation. Online shopping has been at the heart of an economic revolution for more than 15 years. Connected consumers have more choice than ever and more payment methods than ever. Digital wallets are one of them. They've transformed from mere conveniences to indispensable tools in our modern world. According to recent estimates, mobile wallet transactions in Europe are expected to reach $557 billion in 2024. From contactless payments to online transactions, digital wallets have seamlessly integrated into our daily routines, offering unparalleled convenience and security. Today, we're going to explore the reasons behind this rise, the factors influencing the adoption of digital wallets, why digital wallets are a convenient tool for value creation for banks and fintechs, and the impact that technology has on both consumers and businesses. So, whether you're from the fintech, bank, e-commerce, or merchant sector, you're in for an enlightening journey. To discuss this, I'd like to introduce our guest for the day, Peter Theunis, SVP Europe for BPC. Peter joined BPC ranks as SVP Europe to drive business growth and expansion across the European market. Peter is an accomplished professional in the field of finance and fintech, driven by his passion for payments, fintech, digital banking, and embedded finance. With more than 25 years of experience working at companies such as Pelican.ai, Rivero, Endava, Integri, Clear2Pay, and Task Group. Peter, welcome.
Thank you, Rolfe, for having me today.
No problem. Let's jump straight in, Peter. So how do you see and BPC see the usage of mobile wallets on a global scale, and what are the key trends driving this shift?
First of all, I think the mobile wallet is one of the biggest growing instruments for payments or retail payments globally. Juniper Research lately issued a new report where they say by the end of 2024, about half of the world's population will use digital wallets in kind of state. If you add to that, another statistic from Statista is that the digital payments market was about 4 trillion in 2020, and by the end of 2026, it will exceed 10 trillion. Then you see how big this market and how quick this market grows. And if you look to that growth, it's mainly majority is relying on two sectors, being retail sectors and e-commerce. And that are, let's say, since COVID, for sure, e-com is the fastest growing in general. And after COVID, people went back to the shop, so retail is also growing. So if you take these both together, then you see why digital wallets are here to stay and to grow.
Thanks, Peter. From your perspective, do you see there being a distinct difference between what we call a mobile wallet and what we call these so-called super apps?
Yeah, there is, for how I personally see it, there is a difference. While I see that a super app is a communication channel to offer services to a public or to people, then the mobile wallet is the part that first of all does the identification, and in certain areas in the world, it's already used as an EID, thinking about China and so on. Secondly, it's the payment instrument to pay the service that are offered on the super app. And three, it can also be your membership. It can be a loyalty. It's more your, what I would call your personal content of the super app. Your personality of the super app is sitting in the digital wallet.
Yeah, it's interesting. I tend to agree with you on that distinction as well. Thank you. So let's move on to Europe. So I think, as you just pointed out in your intro there, the adoption of digital wallets has been significant. I mean, in some ways astonishing. How do you feel that these wallets create value for financial inclusion and the impact on e-commerce and the benefits thereof for merchants as a kind of point one? And then, are there unique aspects to the European landscape that have influenced this adoption, perhaps versus other regions?
Yeah. If first of all, for the financial inclusion, the wallet, digital wallet, gives people a kind of entry level for small payments. And I'm mainly then thinking about the European-centric wallets, like Twint in Switzerland, like in Belgium, you have Bancontact and Payconic. In the Netherlands, you have Ideal. You have these local that give people a P2P payment option where you can do this for smaller amounts based on a local IBAN account, which people can get in Europe as from 12, and they don't need this credit card or international payment scheme card from MasterCard or Visa or the others. So in that perspective, the entry barrier of the digital wallet is lower. And they can also buy goods even on a younger age in that. And I think it's a kind of financial inclusion or onboarding of youth into this in financial system.
Are there any unique aspects to the European landscape that have influenced this adoption?
And taking that unique approach in Europe, that you have these domestic or local schemes that are went into this digital wallet, it also makes the uniqueness. Europe, we are unified, but also at the same moment, we are very domestic looking. And now with EPI, the European Payment Initiatives, we wanted to have this cross-border digital wallet in Europe. So we are growing as a region also there again. So we are doing domestic, but now we are in the next phase to go into a cross-border way of payments.
Mm-hmm. So sticking with the functions then, one of the key attractions of digital wallets and is the promise of this kind of user experience, the security, frictionless. So how do e-wallets, digital wallets contribute to creating a frictionless digital experience?
First of all, I want to say the identity. Today, our wallet is linked to our mobile phone. So I think for most people, the identity to have a mobile phone is even bigger than having a PIN code on a card. Secondly, with that, in Europe, you have the EU digital identity, e-wallet mandate or a transformation that Europe wants to do to that by 2030. So we're also public service. So this is a good entry barrier in saying, okay, it's seamless. It works on biometrics. You don't need to key in. It's purely that. Secondly, the QR codes used. QR codes generated makes also that the experience at POS or e-commerce means you don't need to key in a lot of or no data, or you don't need to enter pins. So it's seamless in the way that the authentication and the authorization is given by this wallet application over, let's say, digital communication. And also the last thing I think is we will see use cases more and more which have nothing directly to do with payments or not linked to bank or card scheme payments, but things like ticketing, loyalty, and so on. So we will go and you will see that we will extend the services in aspects which are not directly linked to payments.
Yeah, I mean, you raise the interesting point of the mandated European EID. To what extent do you think that will be a game changer for the growth of digital wallets? And I take your point about it not being all about payment, but I'm just really interested in that sort of mandatory piece on EID and how you think that will affect the growth there.
Yeah, I think by the time that becomes a mandatory requirement, people are used to work with digital wallets. And I want to compare it with the migration from magnetic stripe and signature-based transactions to a PIN transaction. One of the biggest issues during that time was that people didn't remember the PIN. They didn't know what was the PIN. You didn't have to sign anymore. So it was a huge consumer changing behavior to go from a signature at the end of the day to a PIN-based. Now people are getting used with digital wallets in payments. So the next step to make it your digital identity, people see it as a normal because, let's be honest, often we use our payment card or our payment methods much more than our identity.
Sure. Okay, so what, therefore, do you see as the untapped potential of digital wallet technology? You know, given some of the conversation we've had, we know that Asia is, you know, a step ahead. Possibly it would be fair to argue that the Americas are a step behind. So I'm kind of interested in where you see that untapped potential of digital wallet technology, and, you know, how does BPC envision its role in shaping that market?
There are two major areas. The first area is the making current digital wallet methods available for our customer base. Yeah, our customer base today, we get more and more cross-border. We get more and more multi-region, European acquirers that want to go to APAC acquirers that want to go with their merchant to Europe. So implementation of the existing wallets for these customers and offer them the service is already first thing. Second thing is that we also can provide a white labeled wallet, because we are not there yet. There will come up more wallets in more areas of business than today are there. We have already a number, but maybe we get interoperable transport wallets or things like that. So that can also be an area where we, with our white labeled wallet solution, can play with without people have to develop the whole thing from scratch. So we have that all kind of parameter control, like limitations like top-ups. You have life cycle management, which is very important. It is to generate the digital identity, but also to maintain the identity and to update when parameters change. There is also integration with third parties, because let's be honest, a wallet is a part of an ecosystem of other services. So you need to integrate, and then we speak about APIs and so on. And in general, to have wallets for all your digital assets as what it can be. It can be a ticket, it can be a loyalty, it can be a payment, it can be your identity with the government, and it can be whatever what you need as a digital asset.
So Peter, you and I will be old enough to remember when people talked a lot about killer apps. Back then it was the telcos who were under pressure to come up with these killer apps. And I wonder, when we look at the progression that we expect digital wallets to make in the next 5 or 10 years even, if there's a killer app in your head that you think of that's either to come, or perhaps there's a kernel of an idea now that will lead to that killer app. Any views when you gaze into your crystal ball there?
If I look in my crystal ball, first of all these killer apps of the telcos disappeared. So probably they were not so killer, or they are killed. Maybe that's the thing to say. I think it's very difficult to see 5-10 years from now what will be our consumer behavior and what will be the killer app. And even if I would, so maybe I would not share it, but start a startup now to build it in 10 years and to have the killer app. So it's quite difficult, I think, to say it. It has mainly to do with consumer behavior and how markets evolve.
Brilliant. Thank you, Peter, for your time today and joining a PCM podcast.
Thank you for inviting me.